Welcome to Leaving Nothing to Chance, your go-to podcast where we bring you insights from some of the most influential voices in small business and personal development. Each week, we dive deep into conversations with top thought leaders, authors, and business moguls from around the world, sharing their secrets to success and strategies for growth. Tune in for exclusive content that will inspire, motivate, and equip you to take your journey to the next level. This is Leaving Nothing to Chance.
I appreciate you joining me, Meagan, because we're living in some interesting times in the network marketing arena. As we both heard yesterday, the news about one of the companies in our industry that had been very successful. And I think you were with that company at one time for a brief time, correct?
Yes, I was. I very much so was.
And what do you think? What do you think really happened over there?
I have some higher level connections in the company from some of the legacy leaders. And so I've known a little bit of the turbulence going on in the background for quite a while now. But honestly, when you have a company that is driven by a character like their CEO and original founder, and then she left this last year for whatever reason, you lose a driver and a muse, someone who inspires the creative process, the development of the products, the quality, the brand surety. That was like my first signal that there was a little bit too much turbulence going on there. And then I saw legacy leaders getting let go and suspended. And when you have a company that's ran, in their case, on social retail, the people who drive that social retail volume are really important for what is the word I'm looking for? It's not the culture, but it's the safety. It's people seeing those faces year after year. Some of these people that I knew were in there for 10 and 20 and 35 years that they had been involved with Modere. And so I watched some of those leaders get transitioned out, whether they chose it or not. And that creates a shaky foundation for sales and team building processes. And then you have the transition financially to where the business model wasn't being treated as it was intended when it was created. And I just think that if you don't have clarity, you have confusion, and confusion creates chaos. And so I know that it's been like a smoke show there for the last 3 years at least. And that's why I stepped away, because there was a lot of politics in the corporate space, where as a lot of these other companies, you don't really hear what's going on in the corporate side of it. You're just your promoter or your social marketer or whatever you're called. And that's the culture inside that you're engaged with. I feel like there was a lot of lines that were crossed when it came to what the social retail side and the corporate side were doing. And it was like oil and vinegar almost. There was not a congruent side-by-side team working together. And I feel like that had a lot to do with the shaky foundation manifesting the way that it did.
It's interesting because I don't know a lot of their people. I know a couple. I've got a couple of friends over there, and they're in shock. They did not see this coming. I don't want to use names because this is so raw. And I guess my first thought is, having been with my own company 28 years, I could only imagine when those people woke up this morning only finding this out yesterday afternoon. And apparently they're not even going to pay them their last checks, which is that's just beyond me. I think what I'd like to talk about, Meagan, if we can, is the state of the industry. And normally I'm the interviewer on this, but today I think we'll go back and forth if we can, because we both have opinions on things. It doesn't mean, by the way, it doesn't mean either one of us are right. But it doesn't mean that we're wrong either, but we both have perspective because we've both been in the industry for a long time and we've seen a lot. But one of my thoughts, I love your thought on this, is I think our industry, on the one hand, has been paid a significant compliment that so many investment bankers, Wall Street types, big money types have recognized. Here's a business where you're not paying Social Security benefits, you're not paying healthcare benefits, you're not paying annuities, you're not paying pensions, you're not doing any of the stuff that you do in a traditional employment setting when you employ somebody and you got to pay all those things as a company. The Warren Buffetts of the world, other guys like him, have recognized the validity, uniqueness of our industry and how great it is. And you're absolutely right to invest in it. But at the same time, when I look, and this will be, by the time we publish this, it'll be after this date, but April 18th, 1983 is when I was introduced to Herbalife. And here we are 42 plus years later by the time we air this. And the industry's changed radically. When I started, Mark Hughes owned Herbalife, for example. Okay, Dr. Shackley was still alive and owned Shackley. Mary Kay obviously is still alive, owned Mary Kay. Rich DeVos, Jay Van Andel were still alive. They owned Amway. There were other companies. I'm forgetting all the companies that existed then, but they all were generally owned by the people who started them. And because of that, they had a distributor mentality, a distributor first mentality. And what I mean by that is they had all had product in the trunk of their car at some point. You know, they did what you did, what I did. They went out and they hawked the product to their friends and their family, and they knocked on doors and they got doors slammed in their face. And they got people that said, I have no money, or I got no interest, or you're nuts. They went through all of that.
Yeah.
Well, if you went to one of the great Ivy League schools and got a degree in finance, and you went to work for a finance company and you became a leveraged buyout person and you bought out a network marketing company, you've never worn these shoes. That doesn't mean you're better or worse than us, but you're different in terms of your perspective, in terms of how these sales volumes that these companies have created were created. They don't get the independent distributor role, frustration, all the ups and downs you go through a distributor. And when somebody builds, like some of the great folks there at Modere did, build great businesses, build six-figure incomes. They have no clue how those people did that. Look at it as a bottom line expense, as opposed to, hey, these are great entrepreneurs that are just as good at what they do as what I do, okay, as an investment banker. They don't understand it. And I think they even look down on it. And I really think, and I'm an old man, so maybe nobody cares what I think, but if I were 20 years younger and my company was about to be sold to one of these guys or one of these groups, I would insist on a contract between the field and that company that they could not change the business model.
Yeah.
And if they wouldn't do it, we just walk and we go to the company that'll agree to that, because there are companies, frankly, that in our space that they're network marketing companies today, tomorrow, and next year. And no matter how painful that might be, they're committed to this. One of the other things that concerns me is I talked to an associate of mine last night who's a major person in the industry. You know them. I won't use their name. They're not on the call. They may not want their name used. But they just were at the DSN event here in Dallas. And this has all of a sudden become a selling channel to a lot of these guys, whatever the hell that means, right? A channel. What does that mean? To me, that means that it's a spoke in the wheel. We've got multi-level, but we're going to sell on Amazon, and we're going to sell on eBay, and we're going to sell on social media, and we're going to compete with the field. And the network marketing part is just a channel in our distribution, as opposed to the only channel in the distribution model. I'd love your thoughts on that.
People just don't understand the culture and what it comes from to be a network marketer and a successful network marketer. You are not doing anything traditional business is doing. I've gone from network marketer to a business owner, and I had to go backwards. And when you're someone, you have women who are running a home at the same time that they're running more promoters in their team than Fortune 500 companies have as employees at sometimes. Like, it's literally a totally different human, and the way that they're structured in themselves and the way that they connect with people, that comes from their true source energy. It's not something that a corporate infrastructure can come in and shift and understand how to take that energetic flow and put it into a new package that's going to create the same result. You have to support those individuals. You have to put systems and tools in place to help facilitate more of that connection, because it's real human. It's not corporation to corporation. It's not corporation to customer account. It's, I was a human being. I connected with another human being. I went through a transformation with my human being energy that inspired in someone else another transformation, and that created a ripple effect. It's not the same thing in traditional business. And that's what people don't understand when they're trying to acquire these type of companies, and they come in and they think that they're going to facilitate putting in some sort of I love what you said about there should be a contract in place for them to not have to change the business model, because a business model is, this is the recipe that this thing works. And this is how it's scaled, and this is how it's tended to, and this is how it's upheld. And when you come in and start putting dams in that flow, it breaks down, and then you don't have the energy pouring into the people that are actually upholding it. And they have these skills that you only get by 5, 10, 20 years behind the seat of one of these major accounts. Sorry, I just froze, but behind the seat of one of these major accounts that we hold in these positions in these companies. And people cannot understand that. They can't have compassion with it unless they are, I think that, like you said, every Ivy League investor should have to go do door-to-door sales or something, like self-revivant for a month or two to go through the torture of understanding like what it is that we go through, have to express the 3-foot rule, and never have an elevator ride that is your own peaceful elevator ride. Like, everyone should have to go through it. And I'm concerned because right now there is a lot of really powerful individuals that are coming out of this big business that just fell yesterday, and they have these humongous skill sets, but there's no more legacy companies out there that have the culture in place to give those people a home. And what I'm really interested to know, in your opinion, what do you see as a direction for these people being able to transition into? Because where do you put skill sets like the ones that we have in this world?
First things first, when I was vice president of a company here in Dallas 30 years ago, I created a debt-free system. And I know a lot of people have knocked that off since. A lot of people have claimed authorship of it. They didn't have the skills. Okay. I came from the insurance industry. I had the skills. I understood what SEP retirement plans were, for example, and annuities. And a lot of these people just fake financial information that they don't have. Some of them have it, but most of them don't. And 30 years ago, I was teaching football coaches how to save money and put money away for their retirement. So first thing I hope is that those people put away some money. Because some of them, to your point, Meagan, some of them made some major money. I hope, number one, that they paid their taxes. Okay. Number two, that they put some money away in their SEP retirement accounts so that they're set up for the rest of their lives. Because some of them had some really nice runs. Some of them made some major money for a lot of years. So hopefully they invested well. That's my hope for them. I don't know. I don't know them as a group. Like I said, I've only got a couple of friends over there. And so I don't know the major people. I know the names, but I don't know them because I've been in one company 28 years. So I haven't been bouncing around. I don't know a lot of networkers outside of my own company anymore. I know some, obviously. I know some of the real top people I know, but a lot of the other people I don't, because they came along after I went to a company I'm with. But having said that, I hope they make smart moves. Okay, because the ultimate insult would be to join another company owned perhaps by another investment banker that you don't know their bottom line. If I was moving as a group, if I were those people, if I was in that circumstance, and I thank the good Lord I'm not, and I pray for those people because I can only imagine what they're going through today. Okay. And I hope I never personally have to experience it. But I have friends that were part of EMA, for example, that did experience it. I have friends that I trained at Advocare that went through it. I've been a witness to it and counsel to some of those people in the past. So I can only imagine. So my advice to them would be, number one, make a smart decision. Wherever you go, if you go as a group, and a lot of them probably will because they've been together for a long time in that company, insist on seeing the books of that company. If it's private equity, find out how leveraged it is. Because you don't want to get in this circumstance again. We've seen it with Team Beachbody. We've seen it with Rodana Fields. Recently, remember, this is the last 12 months, we've seen those two companies go off the radar. Two good companies, two good product lines, right? Two companies that, like Modere, had people making significant income at the very top and then people making good money part-time. So that would be one thing I would insist on personally and collectively is, hey guys, if you're not willing to show us your books, I don't mean what you personally took out of the business as profit, but we got to see a P&L statement. We got to know that you're not operating on leverage capital that could be called at any time, especially with what's going on in the economy with the tariffs and everything else, because you got that's not an 800-pound gorilla. That's an 8 million pound gorilla also. So you don't know how heavily they're leveraged. That's number one. Number two, let's face it, the FTC is a factor in all these decisions.
Yeah.
Okay, the government. here in the United States anyway, that's another 800-pound gorilla. Okay. And even with Trump, who is a pro-business president for the most part, okay, who likes our industry, participated in our industry, okay, and likes us as a group, when not all politicians like our industry, he happens to. But once again, he's one guy. He's not the only voice down there. But even if he loved our industry, okay, and was an advocate of it, which he's not, okay, he's a fan of it, but he's not, I wouldn't call him an advocate. But even if he were, at the end of the day, if your company is breaking the law, be cognizant of it. Okay. If they're not complying with retail ratios, for example, okay, you go back to the Webster versus Omnitrition lawsuit as an example. Okay. Omnitrition should have been $1 billion company.
Yeah.
Should have been. It's not. Why? It got sued. Eventually, the FTC got involved. It basically took it to its knees. Omni Life, which spun off of it, is one of the largest companies in Latin America. But most people don't even know that Omnitrition and Omni Life had any association at one time, and yet they did. Okay, one company super successful in the rest of the world. Other company, I don't even know if they're still operating or not. Last I checked, I think Roger Daley still owned it, but that's a number of years ago. I don't even know if it's still around. But my only point about that is, should have been $1 billion company. It's not. Other companies should have been $1 billion companies. They're not. Why? Compliance. If you're not complying, and I'm sorry, if you're not complying, you're going to get nailed. Plain and simple. Okay. Look at these other companies. Why do you think you're going to be immune? Why do you think they're going to leave you alone? Because your name is Joe or Bill or Mary? No, they're not going to leave you alone. Because you voted for Donald Trump or you didn't vote for Donald Trump? Nope, they're not going to leave you alone. If you're not complying, they're going to put you out of business. Now, the companies that have real retail ratios, and what I mean by that is legitimate retail customers acquiring your product or your service that are not signed up into business, they will survive. Why? Because even if your company does alter its compensation and goes to a affiliate model of some sort, you're still going to have some sort of a business left. Okay, that's not most network marketing companies. Most network marketing companies, and I listen to some of their pitches because I talk to everybody and everybody sends me their stuff. It's recruit. How about retail? Oh yeah, we got a retail thing there, but the product is 9 times more than anybody would ever pay. So we have it just to make the government happy. No, you got to have real retail customers. Legitimate, bona fide. I don't care about the business. I don't want to be in the business, but I like XYZ brand, and therefore I'll buy it as a customer. Okay. I think you've got to have that. That is just a reality of where we are in 2025 and beyond, is you've got to have that. In addition to that, you've got to have the tools for somebody to be able to build a retail only business. For example, I know one young man, okay, who's in a company that had a problem with FTC, cleared up the problem with FTC. They have a very heavy retail component. He makes several $1,000s a month, and his business is 100% retail. Does not have a distributor in his downline, 100% retail. That's a legitimate business model to the government. And not only to the government, by the way, not only to the FTC, state regulatory, attorney generals, all those other folks who have to run for office and get elected.
Yeah.
By the way, if they found a company in our space that they could take apart to gain votes, they'll do it. Okay. So once again, how do you avoid that? You avoid that by doing things legitimately. Now, I'm not saying you got to be so squeaky clean that you can't do business, but obey the laws of the land, and you got a much better chance of survival than if you're skating against the laws and go, I hope that we're just out of their radar, because eventually you will be in their radar, because if you grow, you can't avoid being in their radar.
Absolutely.
So I would say that those are things. And the other thing I would say is this, and you fall in this category at your age, okay? And so do my 3 kids for that matter. If you're under 40, our industry is not sexy to you right now. And what I mean by that is that when I was 21, when I got in the industry, I was actually 20 when I joined. Boy, this industry was attractive.
Yeah, it was awesome.
It was like, wow. And of course, I worked with Mark Hughes. It was like, how cool was that? Mark was like 27. I was like 20 or 21. I mean, I was working with a contemporary. I mean, it was like the coolest thing in the world. And Mark was such a cool guy, right? And Larry Thompson was such a cool guy. And then they had Jim Rohn, who was the voice of reason and like the adult in the room. And it was like this great combination of these guys, right? I don't see that in any company right now. I see investment bankers hiring DSA guys who've never sold a thing in their lives, who are out there trying to tell distributors how to build a business that they've never done themselves. Doesn't work. Guys like me, women like you, we sit there and we go, you've never done this business. You're guessing at it.
Yeah.
And then they come up with tools and systems that you look at and you go, who's going to use that?
Yeah.
You got to get field driven. Now, does that mean the field has to make all the decisions? Of course not. Because the field people, we're field people. We want 100% commission. No, the company needs to make profit. The company needs to pay bills. The company needs to pay taxes. The company needs to pay manufacturers and vendors. They need to run a business, so they need to make profit too. They need to be able to eat too. So you can't let the field make all the decisions. But when it comes to marketing within compliance, you've got to have the field people at the table. And there's so many companies that sit in this ivory tower, and then they tell the field how to market, and the field rolls her eyes and says, that's not going to work. And then the field doesn't invest in what the company wants. And then the company guys get mad at them and say, we're not going to do anything. And then what happens? Then you get the rogue distributor create something, and the other rogue distributors do it, maybe not knowing any better. And all of a sudden, you got a compliance issue with one of the regulatory people.
Yeah.
It's got to get back to common sense. Now,
Yeah.
my point about the younger people, I love your thoughts on this because you qualify as younger, so be happy about that. I can't answer. I can ask this question. I can't answer it. What is it to you? Now, you've been in the industry, you've been out of the industry, right? But you've been successful in building businesses outside the industry.
Yeah.
Okay. What's keeping somebody like you from jumping on one of these companies and saying, wow, it's got everything I want from a product standpoint, a marketing standpoint, a philosophy standpoint. I want to bring all my 30-year-old girlfriends that I mentor in my other business to XYZ brand. What is it that's missing when these executives or old guys like me sit at the table and say, I want to make this so my kids really want to join in and be part of this industry? What's missing right now?
It really is the offer. When I joined my first network marketing company, it was Thrive by Lavelle. And Jason Camper and Paul Gravette are young. They're a little bit crazy now, but Jason Camper was an amazing product formulator. Paul Gravette was an amazing networker and culture creator. And the compensation plan was so easy to grow in that there was rewards, there is vacations, car, everything that in part, and I felt good. So everything in part-time energy, I could live a full-time lifestyle. Right now, that company has so much drama and so much mess, and we're done with it, and they're getting new groups, but there's no offers where I would be willing to step away from how much money that I make in my businesses that could offer me the security of a weekly paycheck or a biweekly paycheck or a monthly paycheck, which is one of the appeals of someone like me. It's, financial security. If I go take this organization of people that I have in my company as affiliates and I put them in a company as a brand promoter, whatever, how does that convert for me that it puts together a situation where I can maintain my lifestyle? I get 3 vacations a year. I've got some sort of residual reward. I get to maintain my product. I can have some lifestyle perks. They don't exist anymore. And good products don't really exist anymore. It's something that I haven't been able to take anything really. And I buy a lot of stuff from my friends and things, and I try stuff, and I have a few products that I have Curium in my house and a few other products, but there's no product that is innovative, breaking, that is easy to consume, and then there's no offer that is putting me in a place where I want to associate with the liability of somebody else's brand. That's really what's been happening. And every once in a while, something will come along. There's one I'm looking at right now that just came out. It's these little H2O drops with this, like, I can't remember what it's hops or something. It's like in there and you take it, it's drops, simple. But then again, you have to climb too far to make too much money. You have to build too much to make a little bit of money. And it's just not sexy. It's just too much work for not enough reward. And if I could, the real reason why I got involved so hard and heavy when I first did was the products were transformational. So that retail side, like you were talking about, that just drove the business. It made it easy to put a sample in somebody's hand. They had a transformational experience in 3 days and we were on to the next thing. That doesn't really exist anymore. Even in that company, they changed the formulation. So it's cheaper product for their margins and it's not creating the same result.
Yeah, it's funny you say that because 1983, when I started, right, part-time college student, like I was graduating college, if you remember my story, right? So I had a month before I was graduating college. I made $800 between April 18th and May 18th when I graduated college.
There you go.
$800. Now, keep in mind, back then, nobody had credit cards. So
Yeah.
people either wrote me a check, personal check, or they paid cash. So $800 was real. I look at modern compensation plans to make $800 coming out of the box, next to impossible. Like 800 today in 2025, when $800 is a tank of gas and a cup of coffee at Starbucks. I'm being a little facetious.
Yeah.
Buys more than that.
No, seriously.
But you know what I'm saying? It's to your point. It's that was sexy because I didn't understand the compensation plan. I remember I got the magazine with my kit, right? I got my kit and I had the career book and I sat there and I made all of these notes. But I remember the lady on the cover later became a friend of mine, like Larry Thompson's late sister, Tish Roisin, Herbalife legend. I got to know Tish. She was a character, great lady. I miss her greatly. But I remember seeing that magazine about Tish and she had made $250,000 the year before. And I was thinking, wow, I got 50%, right? Because it's okay. She sold $500,000 of product in some place called Plano, Texas, which is now where I live.
Wow.
No idea where that was. But what was in my head, she went door to door and everybody in Plano, Texas bought the product and she made 50%. So she sold $250,000 of product at retail, 500,000. She made $250,000. Because I understood that. And that was initially, that was my business, was retail. And I did sign some people up. But at the end of the day, retail got me that kind of money. I don't see, to your point, I don't see that right now with anything that's that retailable, that you could take it, stick it in the trunk of your car and go, hey, I'm going to go out at 8 o'clock in the morning and I'm going to come home at 4 in the afternoon and I'm going to have $500 in my pocket, cash or check or credit cards or whatever. Today, okay, in today's money, I don't see that. I don't see that either.
And you know what? That was the model. That was the car sales or the knife salesman that pulled up to your house in the middle of nowhere on a dust road and opened it and was there to sell you knives and a new appliance when they first came. That was the model that this all came from back in the day. And so
That's right.
it's the root of it. There's something in us that activates when we are inspired to share something that's changing our lives. When we do it naturally, and I think that's the authenticity. Right now, people are oversaturated with counterfeit products. We are tired, we're sick, literally physically sick of bad products, of chemicals, of dyes, of broken promises in the industry, bad actors, drama. We're tired. And I believe that we're going to see a revolution of a new type of hybrid business model that's going to be more decentralized. And this is my crypto side coming out. It's going to be more decentralized and it's going to be more focused on lifestyle delivery through certain tangible tools that you have in your household versus additional products or things that people wouldn't even think about if it wasn't put in their hand in the form of a sample or some ad that they see on social media claiming to create some sort of transformation. I really truly believe that we're going to see a shift in how people are living their lifestyle because of being oversaturated almost with a tummy ache of false and counterfeit products. I really do.
Say this, or let me ask you this. The gig economy, which encompasses everything from Uber to Uber Eats to having an Amazon store to having all sorts of other things, the kind of stuff that you do with different coins and Bitcoin and meme coins and all that sort of thing, cryptocurrency and all these other things, all these other business models. Do you think, because they are growing, okay, these things are growing, do you think that because those things require very little, if any, investment, that's where people are going to make that extra money in that 20 to 40-year-old category that say, hey, I need an extra $1,000 a month. I know if I go and I do Uber Eats on the weekend, I can make that.
I
Right?
guarantee it. It requires absolutely zero identity installation. So that's the issue, is that when you come into these companies, a lot of the reason why somebody gets involved is something. If you think about the different personality types, an A-type personality, an action-oriented personality, they're like, let's get to the money. You have people who are nerdy and they're interested and intrigued in the way that the science of something works. They may get involved that way. Somebody may need to get from A to B and they see a blueprint and a plan. They may not have one at the time, and that's why they jump in, right? In the gig economy, and I'll just touch first things first on, I'm going to practice my eye contact because it's so funny. I've been like not talking to people for a month and a half. So now I'm like thinking like this. I'm like, no, the camera's right here. The first thing is the gig economy. As an Uber driver, as a DoorDasher, it's not an identity shift. I can still be who I am. I can be the person that goes back to my house and after I made my extra $20 to $30 a day to pay my bills. They've got that down. They don't have to do anything extra. When it comes to cryptocurrency in the blockchain space, for me personally, when I want to get an extra $100,000 really fast, I'm going to go to the blockchain. And I'm going to get that $100,000 really fast by promoting a smart contract protocol or an ecosystem there. And I'm going to earn that money within less than 90 days really fast. And I do that through new people adopting into the space because there's 500,000 people in the world that may be talking about that at any given point. So if I can go touch 5,000 people's awareness and get 500 of those people involved in the space and educate them on the financial literacy of blockchain, mass adoption. I'm still just a financial literacy coach. I'm in El Salvador living the lifestyle, and I can earn way faster instant payments without a payment processor shutting down or a company holding my paycheck overnight in the crypto space. And again, I don't have to shift my identity to become a brand promoter where I'm selling my soul to their terms and conditions, where at any given point I could have my paycheck taken away overnight. I can only use my Facebook. This is what happened to me when I was at Modere. I was told I was not allowed to use my Facebook to promote any of my other products that I was involved in. I am a Forex trader and I do build blockchain technology for companies. If I were to share any of those things, I would get in trouble. So I had to dedicate my Facebook only to that company, and my other social media platforms I was allowed to use for other things. So it's like, when it comes to the industry, they tried to put almost like a noose on your neck. And if you did anything wrong, I'm going to kick the chair out from underneath you. And now you don't have your income overnight. And that's a huge thing in the network marketing space, is terror. Normal people who don't even know what lawsuits are getting sued by giant companies. What's laughable is that a lot of them are going under that have been suing these normal people who are trying to help people feel better and make a living. And they got emotional one day, and after months of being mistreated, so they quit their company and they found a new one and they're off to a new start. And all of a sudden, these terms and conditions that they didn't even know said what they said, because they had a clause in there that they could change them overnight. So they changed them and then sued that person because they had too much influence. And now here we are. So the industry is just a freaking disaster. Let's just be real.
Yeah, right? It brings up another point, okay? Because I can only go on some of the young people that I work with, okay? And trying to see the world through somebody else's eyes is next to impossible. But I've watched, for example, where some of the young internet people I work with, they do not want to be captive by one company because their skill set is the internet.
Yeah.
Their skill set is not selling my product or Modere's product or Herbalife's product or New Skin's product or Shackley's product or somebody else's product. It's their skill set is picking this thing up and knowing how to use it and getting a gazillion contacts, okay, that they can communicate with on all these different things. That's their skill set. They have no interest in coming to a meeting, a training, an event, a seminar. It's just not who they are. And we try to tell them, here's how we built the business. For example, I built a lot of my businesses, not anymore, but in the early days, Tuesday night, Thursday night meetings at the Holiday Inn, Saturday morning training. Yeah, because that's what Herbalife taught me. That's what I took to Lifestyles. That's what I took to Advocare as a corporate guy. That's what I took to Immunitech when I started building it, is Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday. Because and by the way, it worked. It made a lot of us a lot of money, by the way. The older people on the call are going, yeah, that's how we built. That's how
It
we
worked.
built. But if I said to my 21-year-old son, come to a Holiday Inn, he'd go, where's a Holiday Inn and why would I go to one?
Yeah.
Okay, having a meeting. Why would I come to a meeting, Dad? I know people all over the world because I played hockey with guys in 20 countries. Why would I come to a meeting? I don't know anybody in Dallas or Chicago or wherever you're living. And the point of that is, I say all that to say this, and I love your thoughts on this, Meagan, is that we can't pigeonhole people into how we did things and tell them you've got to do it that way. And I'm talking here upline. This isn't companies. This is uplines where we're trying to dictate sometimes to the younger crowd, you got to do it this way because this is how grandpa did it. Yeah, that's how grandpa did it, but that's not the world we're living in today with AI and with all these other bells and whistles. And I think, correct me if I'm wrong, there's not a company right now, to my knowledge, that's appealing to those people that are younger than you. You have a 10-year-old, they're your 10-year-old in another 7 or 8 years, age-wise, that it looks at this business model and says it's archaic. I'm going to do it the way that I know how to do it, which is with technology. But if I want to sell Joe's weight loss product, Mary's skincare product, Joe's legal service product, Bob's insurance product, I want to be able to do that without being told that I'm not allowed to do it because some company owner who I don't even know who they are has decided that somehow I'm hurting their business by promoting multiple brands.
Yeah. Which is absolutely tarded because I wear at least 2 brands. I'm not someone who like puts on I'm wearing a fully matching outfit all the way top to bottom right now, but my shoes are not the same brand as my dress outfit right now. Okay. My hair product is not the same. And I actually built a smart contract protocol on the blockchain called the My Life protocol, and it's minting your life. It's literally tokenizing your blender and being able to put a link on your social media when you publish it to your blender if you're doing your video content on what your smoothie is that day, where somebody can go in, buy the smoothie recipe or buy the blender right straight from your profile. And it's because the next wave is going to be getting paid to be who you are and what you use every day. Your shirt is really cool. Where can I get your shirt? Where can I get that shirt? Where can I? And then it allows that authenticity that we're talking about, where it's like when you find a really good product, this brand is, my friend owns this built this swimsuit brand. This is recycled plastic from the ocean that they weave into swimsuits. Wow. And outfits to go to the beach. And it's a luxury brand. She makes the most beautiful clothes and she's Colombian and it's sexy. And when I share that, I can tag my friend and I get a discount or a commission and she gets a sale. That's still the same model that we were involved in, but it's built differently. And the thing that you're speaking, I think about my son, we're about to start his YouTube channel for his Minecraft. He plays Minecraft like he's a champion. Mm-hmm. And I just thought about what you said when you said that. My son, it's going to have to be in Minecraft for him to consume it. Like, it's not going to be anything in the seasonal world. It's not going to be this, it's not going to be that. But one thing I do want to say is I believe that we're going into a multi-generational activation when it comes to the innovation in the industry, because the reason why I'm so powerful is because belly to belly network marketers were who raised me up in the industry, but it was my application of my digital marketing skills that took what they instilled in me from a heart to heart, belly to belly, in the trenches with you, relationship maintenance manner. And when I scaled that, not only from how many people that I could interface via social media, but then I put automated systems behind it, that's why I am so far ahead of the average person in my space. So I believe that if there is a way to take what you just said, where go to the Holiday Inn for a meeting, and we translate that to what is the model, which is master the invitation to a presentation, right? Butts and seats, invitation to a presentation. Understanding how you, as an old school network marketer who is a legacy in the space, how your system works without looking at the physical infrastructure and understanding how that translates into a digital infrastructure or an ethereal infrastructure. When we're talking about anything over the internet, we might be in fully virtual reality by the time my son's in network marketing in 8 years, who knows, right? We may just be putting on goggles, living in a whole new universe. But I believe that the multi-generational unity and people coming together to actually say, what do we want? And then the other thing is people are really going to be pivoting their lifestyles because everybody's living a prop lifestyle right now. You know, the product is a prop, but are you taking that product? Is it transformational? Does it have longevity? Are you going to be taking that for 3 years? Herbalife, it's probably something you've been taking for however many years that you've been in it. If you're an Herbalifer, you're going to go get Herbalife. That's just what you guys do. And so the products that are going to be produced in this next phase of, and I do believe it's going to be completely different than what we're seeing right now. And I believe that these companies are going to start emerging within the next year, 2 years, 5 years, is going to be something that is as powerful as the iPhone. It's instilled into everybody's consumption. And I require an iPhone. You're not going to put Meagan Monroe on an Android. I'm sorry. Meagan Monroe does not do Android.
Or John Solleder, by the way.
What are you?
Or John Solleder. I love my phone.
Yeah. And once you, and think about that too. I was thinking about that with this specific company that we've been talking about in this call, but that collagen was her thing. And when you tried to Steve Jobs and they tried to put him in that position where he was not in the driver's seat, they did the same thing with Elon. It just doesn't work. Those brilliant minds, those creators, those innovators, they're why we're here. You know what I mean? We like things.
That's right.
Stuff. So I think that people can learn in this now. You may not have the winning product or service. You may not be the one producing the product or service, but if you start designing yourself and your personal brand in a fashion where people can even if something falls away, like a company, they still have that camaraderie with you and they still have that connection with you. And you're the reason why they're there, and the relationship that they've developed with you and how you've helped them develop as a person. That is where people need to be focusing right now, because the whole world is getting resettled right now. Yeah. It's not just network marketing. It's not just the public traded companies. It's trade wars. It's real estate. I just made a status about Warren Buffett putting $234 billion into treasury bills or bonds or whatever, and moving them out of the real estate industry because it's shifting. And so right now, build up yourself, build up your cash reserves, build up your gold and silver reserves. And before you associate with a new path swiftly, take the advice that you gave them in the middle of this video, where you gave those 4 solid points for people to be evaluating before they jump into a company, but also go check on your people and be a human. Hey, this was traumatizing to me. Or even somebody like me, this was a flashback for me because I woke up to my paycheck gone overnight. What did I learn in that experience? And before you make the good decision, like you said they should be making, what do you need out of something, and what allows you to authentically express yourself so that in 7 to 10 years from now, if we're talking about recruiting someone like my son in 7 to 10 years from now, the infrastructure in which you teach people to build and how you build can translate from analog to digital, from digital to Web3. That is who you are, John. Legendary. You're going to be able to go through all of these phases because you put the work in at some point, right? And you're still maintaining that. You're still putting the work in. That's what people need to be shifting to, is who am I and what value, and not just, God, I hate the word value because of network marketing. What is my worth? Not value. What is my worth? And how can I increase my net worth by increasing my skill sets, increasing my tool sets, and increasing the connections that I have right now around me as a personal brand. The Bible says to value a good name over silver and gold. How can I build up my name in a time like this to be known for the person who pivoted during a financial reset in the world, found the right lane to travel in? And there's so much room for innovation because so many things have fallen away, like this company, right? So many things are falling away. Could you be the next person to start a Mary Kay? Could you be the next person to start a Modere, right? That's what people need to be thinking. And honestly, your personal brand, you don't have to be someone thinking about starting something that big, but your personal brand can be what changes everything for you. if you invest in yourself and building up what you are and how you can convey who you are and how you get what you get and how you get the result that you produce by how you brand yourself and how you package yourself and how you translate your gift to the people that you are working with.
And you used one of the two words that are key. Pivot number one, right? And a pivot, we know what that is, right? If we're in playing basketball and we pivot to face the basket or face away from the basket to catch the ball, that's pivot, right? In business, sometimes we have to pivot either to something or away from something. What do we have to pivot to right now? AI, for example. Podcasting, for example, has two things that, in my humble opinion, as a guy who's been in business for himself for 42 years and survived all the ups and downs of economies and presidents and circumstances, everything from COVID to 9/11 to 2008 financial crisis to personal dilemmas, personal things in my own life. Okay. Pivoting is really important. And secondly, to be agile. Now, what I mean by agility, and this is once again getting back to our friends at Modere and other companies that are in this circumstance that those folks are in, you got to be willing to adopt and be agile in terms of what you do. For example, if you built your business 20 plus years ago when those guys got started and you were sitting on your check, like a lot of people are in this industry, okay, and you're not willing to learn AI or podcasting, then you've created yourself to be a dinosaur. You're not going to do it again. You're going to be one of those people that goes to that company. For example, there was a girl left my company. She went to a travel company. Why? I have no idea. That failed. She went to a big company out of Germany. And I heard today that she went to one of these patch companies. 3 companies in a year. Smart girl, by the way. I like that. I happen to like this person a great deal. But I'm saying, what is she thinking? I haven't talked to her. Here's what I'm thinking. She's confused. She thinks that those companies are going to build her business. What she's forgotten to do is what you just said, very rightfully, Meagan. Her brand is what's important. Has she evolved? Okay, one of the things I was willing to do that I'll give myself credit for, and I rarely give myself credit, I'm willing to learn these things as an old guy. Okay, I did an AI summit today for 4 hours with 3 AI people, one of which is an engineer and 2 other guys that work in that industry. One, our friend Chris Champion, and 2 others, for example. Okay, I'm willing to learn what I don't know. Right now, do I need to become an expert at AI to build a business, network marketing in 2025? Of course not. But I need to find the people who have the expertise that I can use what I can use and apply as needed to make my business function in 2025. I can't go, I'm 64 years old. I don't want to know about AI. Doesn't work. Doesn't work. Podcasting. Okay. There's 3.9 million podcasts right now in the English language. There's going to be 40 million in the next 5 years. If you don't have a podcast, you need a podcast. It's real simple. It's a YouTube channel. You can go to a podcast company. They'll produce one for you. You can spend a lot of money if you want. That's up to you. It's not a bad idea. I wouldn't tell you have to do that, though. Get a good camera. Okay. Get a good Canon camera like I've got here. And there's other brands, certainly. Okay. And start to film yourself and start to learn about social media a little bit. I'm no expert. Okay. But I'll tell you what, I'm willing to learn. I'm willing to adapt. I'm willing to be agile to learn those new skills that are applicable to my business. Because if I want to be contemporary, I can't be talking what I learned in 1983 from Mark Hughes, Larry Thompson, and Jim Rohn. Now, I learned some great stuff from those guys. Don't get me wrong. Some stuff that is just as relevant 20, 42 years later.
Yeah.
But the way we do things has changed because of technology and the way that the world has changed. So you got to be able to pivot, number one. And number two, you got to be willing to be agile in your thinking. Okay. And this is where my suggestion to company owners, you've got to be willing to do that. You can't look at your bottom line and say, we did X amount of business last year and we expect to do that this year. Probably not going to happen. Why? Because you're getting picked at. Okay. It's like the movie The Birds. If you remember that Alfred Hitchcock movie, The Birds, and the birds kept coming. The birds are going to keep coming at you.
Yeah.
The birds are the Federal Trade Commission, the Food and Drug Administration, if you're selling a supplement, the SEC, if you're a public company. Those 3 are going to keep coming at you. Okay. In addition to that, Okay, who else is going to keep coming at you? More and more distributors from other companies picking away at your distributor base, right? Where they have a new shiny penny. That's a whole nother thing we could talk. We could do a whole podcast on the shiny penny concept of network marketing. It's not real, folks. Don't go after shiny pennies. Go after companies that have real products. If they don't have a real product with a real story, and I don't mean just an anecdotal story, if they don't have a clinical trial to support their product or patents or stuff that really supports their product, you're going to get knocked off and you're going to lose. What happened? You go back to the juice companies, right? The mangostines. I remember I was in a plant here in Dallas that was making mangosteen for a network marketing company. And the guy walked me to the other side of the building and they were making the same product out of the same vat for Walmart and put it in a different bottle. And I was like, wow. I was like, isn't that, they tell this story, they go, yeah, it's a nice story. That's called marketing, John. They were making the same product and selling it at Walmart under Walmart's label. Same stuff. $10 at Walmart, $40 in multi-level. The consumer eventually said for that $30 differential, now if I'm getting a check, I'll spend $30. But if I'm not getting a check, maybe Walmart's is just as good.
Yeah.
This is another thing that's happening. Those are the birds I'm talking about. Those are big birds. Walmart, Costco, Amazon. Those are big birds that are going to continue to poke at your nest constantly. Okay. If once again, you're not innovating and you're not treating your distributors properly.
Yeah.
Okay. So these are all factors that you have to consider in our business today that didn't exist, honestly, 42 years ago. It was easier. I'll be honest with you. It was a lot easier. We didn't have any of those factors. We thought we were like one of 4 or 5 companies at that point that were relevant in direct selling. It was amazing. It was like you had millions of people to talk to. Today, everybody's getting called about network marketing businesses. The people who like our business, by the way, not everybody likes our business model, but for people who are open to it, you got to have a competitive edge. You got to have, quote Jeff Olson, you got to have a slight edge. Okay. You got to have something that somebody says, hey, your stuff's a little different. Your approach is a little different. You got something I think my friends would like. Okay. How are you going to accomplish that? By the way, a lot easier said than done, Meagan. We and I can come up with all kinds of stuff that they should do, but doing it is the hard part. But to that question, how does a distributor find a product or a service, okay, that has an edge to it that isn't out there in the big box stores or on Amazon already, that the second that their friend says, hey, wait a minute, this product's being sold on Amazon, why would I try to compete with Amazon, for example? What's your answer to that?
They have to expand their awareness. I've been going through this process of my children are home, my son's homeschooled, and I've been studying myself and looking at my children and how I want them, what parenting really is, how to relate to specific things. And if I map like my children's world out right now and what they're aware of, they're limited to what I've brought them through and how I've taught them to relate to specific things. If the world is shifting in a direction like we're talking about AI, the best thing that you could do is expand your awareness into AI. Pull the statistics. Where are the people? What direction is this place going? And then what am I interested in? What excites me? What activates certain things in me that gets me excited to be in my doing state, right? In that space. And how can I become more aware so that I can pick something that's for me and my expansion? Because there's a natural expansion that's always happening as a human being. We're always learning, we're always adding to, we're always accumulating more of something. And if people get in the water of commerce right now and they allow momentum to be the wind at their back when it comes to picking a
So you were saying about AI?
Yeah, what I'm referring, and that's just an example, is like there is information and knowledge of things that are actually solutions being introduced to the world right now, because a lot of big pharma, big tech, big everything is becoming irrelevant. And so the actual education process of oneself is really important right now, everybody, because if we can get through the smoke and mirrors and we can say thank you to people like Donald Trump and everybody else who's just breaking stuff right now, they're just showing you the illusion. I keep saying this to people. I say, there's billionaires right now in front of you dancing around playing with a corporation that you thought was your country and a sovereign nation, when really we're just subservient to this company, right? So you can see billionaires out in public. Soon we're going to see trillionaires out in public. Private money is coming to fix stuff, right? And so if we can become aware of things like AI, of things like blockchain, Web3, and see how we can position things we're already interested in, we're already wanting to be involved in. You may want to get into like biotechnology, right? Where biofeedback machines that help rewire your state with frequency. Like I think there's Healy that has the frequency machine, different things like that. Those directions, the holistic way that our bodies actually work when it comes to technology or supplementation, when it comes to technology online and expansion of business, you can even take that thought of awareness and create awareness for other people about AI and how to refer people to something like what Chris is offering. And then you can make income that way for people who just are aware and who are naturally a little bit autistic and are naturally leading the way, like myself, into other different industries. Right now, people don't need to be attaching themselves to anything that's giving them an identity. They need to understand that they are limitless and that their identity is found in all the pieces of themselves, and finding new creative ways to carve out lanes in those spaces without getting stuck to one specific point. It's going to, you have a financial part of your life, you have a health part of your life, you have a relationship part of your life. And I really truly believe that wealth is going to be built in this next season by a diversified relationship with businesses. It's not going to come through one specific relationship. And I think that makes people feel comfortable to be, I would feel comfortable if I was in a position like you, where I was able to say, I've been a part of this for this many years. But after what I've gone through and the trauma that I've experienced in this industry in just 10 years, I'm not comfortable with one. I'm comfortable that I have all these specific things, like El Salvador pays for El Salvador, and it gives my family a financial retreat of 40% capital gains tax for my Bitcoin liquidation process. When I'm in the United States, it gives me the covering that United States gives me when it comes to being one of the most powerful first world countries in the world, and all that it benefits for the financial vehicles that it offers me there. When it comes to my relationship to New Zealand and my sovereign banking infrastructure, and that's where my cryptocurrency is housed and things like that. The UK gives me shelter when it comes to how I can structure my business and interface with the rest of Europe. I utilize my awarenesses to pick parts that sustain themselves, and it allows me to be bigger. And I feel like people have been really all Americanized. We have been stuck in our illusion. And there's so much more world out there, and there's so much more product out there, and there's so much more activation of humans that are coming into this next phase than just one.
You know, you're making an amazing point in that, mentioning those different countries, you're getting the best resource of each of those countries. And like, I'm a proud American. I waved the flag on 4th of July. Okay. But I'm married to a Canadian who's a proud Canadian, by the way, which, by the way, has been very interesting the last couple of weeks with tariffs and US and Canadian hockey games. And anyway, but
Canadian in here too. So I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
We will get into all of that right now. But my wife is a proud French Canadian, and she should be. They've got a great culture and great legacy to their country, and so do other people in their countries. But here's the real point. You just illustrated the fact that different countries, different cultures, different rules of law, okay, are advantageous to anybody in business today. Now, that wasn't the case when I was your age, for example. Okay. In the respect, it was at the very top level. The super elite could always take advantage of things. But for a normal person, today, a normal person can take advantage of international banking, international business, international monetary exchange, crypto, all of these things that are really international, as opposed to just American or just Canadian or just Mexican or just El Salvadorian or just whatever. So take advantage of those things, because the world has become this, even though it's just as big as it ever was geographically, it's become much smaller in terms of business once again because of technology.
Absolutely. And when it comes down to it, my play personally has been become the infrastructure that international business has been built on. So for me, I have my blockchain smart contracts. My smart contracts execute agreements automatically. And so when me and you enter an agreement, I can be here in El Salvador, you can be there in Plano, Texas. And if I refer a ton of people to you through my link on the smart contract and you're in my ecosystem, any amount of business that you may do with anyone in any part of the world is automatically and instantly paid out to me and you and that person in consideration of the business that's being done. And I didn't have to monitor that. I didn't have to wait for a third-party payment processor. I don't have to worry about legal and compliance because it's built into the smart contract in the first place. And it just self-executing. It's immutable. There's no fear of things not working out how they were agreed upon. And this allows me to have more space to be Meagan as a human than when I'm sitting in a company worried every day about being compliant, following a rule, and making sure that the way that I'm allocating my time is successful for my business. I remember the last week of every month, and mind you, I love network marketing, but the last week of every month was spent making sure I hit my goal and everybody else hit their goal and nobody was, and it's just like, how about
you see this gray hair? That's 42 years of month ends.
Oh my goodness.
I blame my kids sometimes and my wife, but that's 42 years of month ends.
That's something that there's so much momentum to be made and maintained if people can comprehend a shift in the business model that the world has been operating on. And that's going to be a decentralized business model. It's going to be a people-to-people driven business model. So network marketers are ahead of the game because it's a peer-to-peer, people-to-people business model. But what people need to do is what the Bible said is expand your tent stakes and prepare your field for rain. Go bigger. Get further out. I started in a town and there was 2,000 something people in my little town that I was in. Like literally we were a town between two towns. And then we were on a road and then there was like where we were, okay? Like it was small, okay? But because I created a model called Takeover Local where I researched the top cities for network marketing in all 50 states. And then I looked up the suburbs in the suburbs. Then I went to the Facebook groups. Then I penetrated the Facebook groups with my samples and I started delivering them all over the United States via mail from my trailer park. Okay, I would walk with my big bag of samples to the freaking mailbox and put them in one by one. And then I made people post pictures with their stuff and I made people tell me how they feel. I made people keep track of it. And I made a business that went all over the United States from my trailer park because I was willing to expand my awareness. And so people need to do what you said. They need to look at the balance sheet. They need to look at the numbers. They need to check the data points. And they need to be willing to understand that if they expand their awareness only, that all of a sudden, I can't remember the quote. I wish I could remember, but it's like, you take the step and the path will appear. If you take the step, the path will appear. Don't limit yourself to the pressure of the current situation and the loss that you just may have experienced. For any of my friends who may be listening to this from Modere or any other company, just at a pivotal moment in your life, don't feel like you have to make a decision based on the situation and circumstance you're facing right now. Take a moment to back yourself up. Collect some more pieces of information. Set your intention and what it is that you want to see made manifest in your life. Take that emotion, whatever it may be, whether it's joy and relief, because some of y'all were wanting to get out of there anyways, or whether it's feeling heck because you just lost everything. Take that energy and put all that into the focus of your intention and watch what you create. with adding a little bit more information, giving yourself a little bit of more space to make a better decision, utilizing a little bit of financial literacy, and then doing something intentionally with strategy. You're going to get yourself where you want to go. And this world is waiting for brave and innovative minds to do something different right now.
And the only thing I'll add to that is, and once again, we can't know, neither one of us right this at this second can know how you're feeling. I've lost checks in the past, by the way, too. Okay, years and years ago, I was waiting, and when I really needed the money for a check from a company that had cut me off, purely based on a rumor, by the way. Wasn't even true.
Yeah.
$27,000 check, and I'm waiting, and one day goes by, another day goes by. About the third day, you start to sweat, like, where's my money? And you got bills to pay. I called the company, oh, we're terminating you. For what? A rumor, because you're doing something else. Really?
That's the same thing that happened.
Yeah, and this is a long time ago, by the way. And since then, I've been lucky. I've made some better choices in terms of companies. But at the end of the day, you never know, because if a balance sheet, if there's no money in the bank and the check comes and it bounces, it's no good either, right? So
Yeah.
it depends on the balance sheet of the company. But all that said is, and I think that's good advice. What you said is, look, make decisions based on what's right for you, not because your upline's going to another company. Hey, look, 9 times out of 10, they're probably making a deal and getting paid. You're not going.
Yep.
Okay. So is the company good? Is it something you can actually promote? Second thing is look for longevity in brands. There are brands in our industry that have longevity. Okay. And I don't mean just necessarily the older companies. There are some older companies, including mine with Immunitech, that we've been around a long time, 28 years, and we got 50 years of science to support our core product, Immunical. Could you come here? Yeah, believe me, we'd love to have you. Okay. But wherever you go, make a smart business decision for you. Don't just necessarily go my upline, because maybe your upline's getting a deal. Okay. And a lot of companies aren't giving deals, but there's companies that are going to give deals. But to that point, make a wise business decision about where you see yourself 5 years, 10 years down the road. Is the product sustainable? Is it unique? Is the comp plan fair? And does it have, we talked about earlier, Meagan, right? Does it have the components of people using the product that could care less about ever being in the business? If it doesn't, run away from it, because it's going to be an FTC problem, right? Is the company regulatorily consistent? In other words, does the company understand the business it's in? One of my concerns with some of the modern companies, because they have been bought by investment banks, they got people running compliance, have no idea what compliance is. Okay. They think it's compliant because of this or that, or the other thing, and they don't understand what could happen in terms of how they operate. So are they operating a legal business that's not going to run afoul of the law? As best as you can tell. Okay. And all you need is one executive to come into one of these companies with the wrong philosophy, and you could have a problem.
Yeah.
But is the company governed by people that are going to be there long term, barring anything unforeseen accident or something like that? Are you governed? Okay, there's companies in our industry that have great governance. I know some of those companies have great governance. Okay, and they'll have great governance 20 years from now. Even if those people aren't there, they're grooming their successors to have great governance. You got to have great governance, because any of us are only as good as our company lasting. I don't care if you were Dexter Yeager. If Amway didn't last, Dexter Yeager wouldn't be somebody whose name you and I would both know and every networker in the world knows, right? Try to make decisions based on all the facts that you can accumulate. Don't do something where I know you got to make a check, but you make a bad decision, and a year from now, you're doing like my friend who's in their 4th company in a year, okay, where you go into another thing, because your credibility is going to be gone. That's a whole nother issue, okay? If we're leaders in our industry, we got to lead people. They're dependent on us. Okay. Think of it this way. When you're a part-time person, okay, and I have 3 categories of income, by the way, okay, in America anyway, of people over the age of 60. Okay, let's just talk about that group. We can talk about all these groups at another time, but let's just talk about that group, over 60. That maybe were affected with this situation where they've just lost their check as well. And they were counting on that as part of their retirement money. Wow, they built this business. They were teaching school. They were driving a truck. They were working in construction. They were doing whatever. And they were building this check to be part of their retirement income. So tier 1 are people with Social Security only. Tier 2 are people that have had either 401k, annuity, SEP retirement account that they've accumulated assets in towards their retirement. Okay. So those two groups are generally still pretty good right now in America. And then there's that third group that has real estate assets and other investments that hopefully are multiple sources of income paying them. Boy, that's a great group. Okay. So that's three different distinct levels of income. The first one, just about everybody has. The second one, some people have. The third, less people have. Now, what if you're in that category and you just lost your check and you were counting on that 500, 1,000, 2,000, 3,000 bucks a month in addition to those other sources of income? Okay. You make sure you make a really good decision. You don't have the luxury of being able to make a mistake at this point. Pick a company that you know is going to be in business. There's a lot of good choices out there, a lot of solid companies out there, a lot of good brands out there. Okay. Ask the right questions that we talked about before, though, about balance sheets and about philosophy. Because in a year from now, if they're going to change the business model, don't bother. You're wasting your time. Okay. You got to make sure that they're dedicated to multi-level. If they're talking this channel nonsense, go the other direction. Okay. If they're talking channels, because that means they're going to be competing with you on Amazon, Walmart, eBay, and 57 search engines, and you're just going to be in the mix. Run away from that. Run to the companies that say, we are a network marketing company first and foremost. We're going to give you the tools and invest everything in the business, okay, to give you the ability to go out there and sell our product, widget, service in the marketplace. That's where you want to be, frankly.
Absolutely. Yeah. Follow the conviction.
You know, so Meagan, just wrap it up here because I know you probably got to feed those kiddos, right? Getting a dinner
My
time.
little daughter's mother, where are you?
Mommy's off doing a podcast. So what would be your strategy if you were these people today? What three things would you do in the next week to, let's say, month to make those decisions, those hard decisions that our friends at Moderne need to make?
First thing that I would do is evaluate how I'm feeling and how I'm processing and really sit with myself and give myself space away from my spouse, my kids, my responsibilities, whether this is an hour. And I would actually sit with myself and process what I'm feeling. And then from there, I would record and reflect what it is that I'm feeling down in some sort of record. First things first, because a lot of people, especially in the network marketing space, we are self-sacrificing for the people that depend on us. And we also have a special way in which we operate with our family, depending on how they have a relationship with us in our business. And I believe that the first thing that people should do is make sure that from an internal perspective that they're okay. That's what I would do first things first. And then taking that to the business, share that with the people that follow you. Do the same thing. Take a moment to pause, reflect. How are you feeling right now? You could even have a puddle huddle where you get everyone on a call and let people share how they're freaking feeling to get it out of the way. The second thing that you need to do is have a very driven and action-oriented call to get everyone on the same page and reset in their goals. I would reach out to every single person that comments on my post about leaving, that was in my team, all of my customers, and let them know, one, how you're feeling, and two, what you're going to do about it. All right. And invite them for the opportunity to come and communicate with you as a leader or hear you communicate in the form of some sort of virtual webinar. Immediately get everybody in the same place, get everybody feeling like there's still a team in place. And then from there, let them know your plan. I would sit down and identify what it is that you want to do moving forward and what it is that you require. You may take some tips from this video, but what it is that you require in order to take a next step. You may want to take 1 month off to recalibrate yourself, train your team, and have everybody start clean up their social media, clean up their personal networking, go through the process of resetting their goals, go through the process of creating some sort of challenge. Jump into whatever it is that you're going to jump into in the next 30 days, and then take that on a 90-day challenge where everyone's at the starting gates together on the front line, and then everyone's moving forward. But the first thing that you need to do is make sure that your heart, your intention, your authentic frequency is cleaned and corrected, because this stuff is traumatizing. And a lot of times we get so far into it when it comes to being a business owner, being responsible for other people's well-being, that we don't honor ourselves. And it has a ripple effect that if we don't clean up that effect, it could cause some stinky spiritual, emotional hygiene. We want to make sure that we clean that up. So then taking the time to come together and kumbaya, it clears up that emotional need. And then from there, get to work, because hard work is good for a broken heart.
I love everything you said there, but especially, yeah, it'd be a good idea. Those folks got on a Zoom call and just aired out how they're feeling. Cause once again, they got to get it out. You know what I mean? This is like a divorce, but it's like a divorce you didn't see coming.
Yeah.
It's like your spouse ran away overnight or something. It's horrible what's happened to these people. And I just, yeah, just to add to that, I just pray for all these folks, because I can't even imagine the financial calamity that they're going through, but also the emotional one, because these businesses more than, and this is once again something these investment banking guys will never get. These become extended family.
Yeah.
I know in the years that I've been with my current company that I've become friends with people cross-line, for example, and we've gone through deaths of family members, parents, children in my case, births, good things too, you know, births of kids graduating high school and college and getting married, and some of us becoming grandparents, that you've come through as a group of people.
Yeah.
Extended family, and one, you might be in Dallas, somebody else might be in Baltimore, and somebody else might be in London, but you're on Zoom calls together. You see each other and you become friends. So this is a very painful thing, folks. So we're not minimizing anything. We're just trying to, Meagan and I are just trying to give you guys some outside advice, because it doesn't directly affect either one of us at this stage of our careers. But we're thinking about you guys, and we just are wishing you nothing but the best, because you deserve the best. You're good people. You're good distributors. Okay. And it's going to be okay eventually. Okay.
Yeah.
So we're just thinking about you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Great. Meagan, as always, my friend, good to see you. And El Salvador is treating you well still. I see all your Facebook and by the pool and all the other great stuff you're doing with your kiddos, and continued success, my friend.
Thank you. You too, John. It's always a pleasure.
Likewise.
Thank you for tuning in. Be sure to check back weekly for more exciting episodes. And don't miss Ink and Insight every Wednesday, where we celebrate iconic authors and dive into their impactful works.